The Fatal Frame 5 remaster is finally out this week. So, before it comes out, I'd like to take a look at another of the rituals that can be found in the game. The all-important black box ritual. Now, it's not actually called that in-game. It's never given a name at all because it's a practice that takes place constantly. But for ease of reference, that's what I'm going to call it today. So, without further ado, let's uncover the secret behind these terrifying boxes. Japanese horror is, of course, rife with boxes. If you're deep in the creepypasta scene, then you've no doubt heard of the kotoribako, perhaps the most famous cursed box to come out of Japan in recent years. But there's an entire subgenre dedicated to cursed boxes and the havoc they can wreak simply by touching them. Fatal Frame 5 gets in on that action by giving us the black boxes. But what exactly are these boxes? And will they curse you simply by touching them? Well, no. These boxes are a little different to the usual creepypasta type. First of all, touching the box alone won't curse you like touching a kotoribako would, although you shouldn't really go around freely touching them either. But that's not what they were designed for. The black boxes that can be found on Mount Hikami have a very specific, very important purpose. They're designed to soothe the mountain, to protect the seal that keeps the dark waters of the Shadow Spring at bay. Without this protective seal, the waters from the underworld would burst forth and destroy the mountain, taking everything they touch with them. But how can these boxes protect the seal? Well, they're designed to act as pillars. You may have heard the term hitobashira, or human pillar, before. This is where a living person is encased in a box or even directly inside the walls of something to act as a sacrifice. Their sacrifice ensures the safety of the construction, and throughout Japanese history, there are all sorts of stories of human pillars being used inside tunnel walls, bridges, castles, dams, and other important construction sites. The black boxes on Mount Hikami are designed to work in much the same way, by offering a powerful sacrifice to help protect the seal. But they're also a little different to your usual human pillar. These don't simply encase a person in a box and then hope for the best. These black boxes are designed to hold powerful sacrifices, generally shrine maidens who choose to enter them of their own free will, and are then also filled with the same dangerous yet powerful dark waters from the mountain. On top of that, the boxes get their black appearance from ink that is also mixed with those same dark waters. So, these wooden boxes are first painted black with special ink mixed with the black waters of Mount Hikami, then a shrine maiden is placed inside, either willingly or otherwise, and sealed in with more black water. While most shrine maidens enter the box willingly to fulfill their duty once they realize they are approaching the end of their life, some are less than willing and may have their limbs crushed and broken as they are forced into a box. While a shrine maiden who chooses freely to go inside a box is believed to be more powerful, one who suffers in great pain is also said to bring power as well. Just a little less so. Some maidens also came from the nearby Mount Kagiroi, which shared mostly the same beliefs as Mount Hikami, although their religion preferred to use children as shrine maidens, due to a common belief across Japan that children under the age of 7 still belong to the kami, thus making them closer to the other side than full-grown adults. Either way, once the shrine maiden was inside the box, a man known as a Shadow Touched then carried her to her final resting place on the mountain. Generally, stronger shrine maidens were placed near the top of the mountain, closer to the Shadow Spring, and less powerful maidens were placed at strategic spots across the rest of the mountain down below. These Shadow Touched, also known as Yomibito in Japanese, were forced to make constant contact with the black water as they carried the boxes to their final destinations. the boxes were, after all, coded in it. This resulted in them somewhat losing their humanity, physically transforming into monstrous-looking creatures who had to wear masks to hide the deformities of their faces. They were no longer able to move around in the light either, and forced to carry the boxes under the cover of darkness. As mentioned earlier, simply touching a box for a moment or two wouldn't cause much damage, and through the game, numerous characters opened the black boxes without harm. But the shadow touched carried them on their backs for long periods of time, exposing them to more and more black water until it finally deformed and twisted them. They may not be immediately dangerous to touch, but prolonged exposure absolutely was. Now, these boxes weren't uniform in shape across the board. While less powerful maidens get shoved into cubes just big enough to fit a person with a little squishing, more powerful shrine maidens got caskets, or, as they're referred to in Japanese, coffin boxes. These were bigger and longer, allowing 2 people to fit inside. Why? Well, you can check out my ghost marriages video for more on that, but it was believed that a shrine maiden who was buried with a partner, a husband, would be able to withstand the black waters inside the box longer, making her a better sacrifice. These boxes were especially fancy and would be buried inside the shadow spring itself. Not all shrine maidens were powerful enough to warrant one of these caskets, but Ulse, the last shrine maiden to be buried before the Mount Hikami disaster, was one of those. Of course, these human pillars wouldn't last forever, and new ones were needed to replace the old. The maidens inside the boxes would eventually melt away into the black water, their physical bodies dissolving into nothing, essentially, and once she was gone, her powers could no longer help the seal. As such, new sacrifices were always needed, with less powerful ones disappearing quickly, and more powerful ones lasting much, much longer. Ulse herself lasted around 100 years, as she's still in her casket by the time Fatal Frame 5 rolls around, although it's mentioned that she likely won't last much longer, and has only held out this long because of how insanely powerful she is. Even after the Mount Hikami disaster that wiped out all the shrine maidens close to a century ago, the tradition of human pillars continued. This time carried out by the ghosts on the mountain, who were a little less picky about who ended up inside a box. Local women who visited the mountain tended to mysteriously vanish as they got picked off by ghosts and put into boxes as stopgap sacrifices, while local men were also spirited away to become unwitting husbands to Ulse. Much of the game is spent saving people from these boxes, before the black waters entirely consume them. And that is the history and lore behind the black boxes that lie at the heart of Fatal Frame 5. Japan has long had a love of cursed boxes, and these ones are no different. But what did you think about this one? Are there any other lore videos you'd like to see? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.